further ado, I'm going to introduce our first panel for today, Collaboration, Ecosystems, and Sharing a Future Vision, with our moderator, Melissa Smith. I'd like to welcome them on stage. Come on out, everybody. I'm going to read the bio while they all kind of get out and get settled here. Melissa is a partner in the Securities and Capital Markets Group in BLG's Calgary office. Melissa focuses her practice on corporate and securities law with an emphasis on mergers, acquisitions, and other business combinations of public and private issuers, including takeover bids, amalgamations, and plans of arrangement. She also advises clients on financing transactions, including public and private offerings of debt, equity, and convertible securities, compliance with corporate and securities regulatory requirements, and drafting of a large number of corporate and commercial documents. In addition, Melissa is the chair of BLG's Calgary Student Committee. Welcome to the stage, everybody.
Hi, good morning. It's always funny listening to people read your bios. You always are like, wow, this is really boring, but you did a really good job, so thank you. And also, wow, I should really update my bio. But anyway, it's great to be here. Excited to be moderating this panel. I'll do a quick introduction. Everyone here is smarter than me and just went with a fun fact instead of a bio, so it'll be quick. Right next to me is Brenda Berkedorf, who's Executive Director at Alberta IoT. And the fun fact is Brenda, with her massive pups and her mountain bike, is always up for a challenge, especially when it involves conquering new peaks. So any other mountain bike enthusiasts, I'm sure Brenda would be glad to talk about it. Next we have Doug Holt, who is the Associate Vice President of Investments with Alberta Innovates. And I'm gonna have to ask for more details on this because the fun fact is that he was chased by a grizzly bear, which doesn't sound really fun. I don't know, is there any?
I was struggling for a fun fact, and this is where we landed.
Perfect. Next to Doug is Terry Rock, who's the president at Platform Calgary. And Terry was the skip, and I'm going to have to read this to get the title right, but Northeast Saskatchewan Student Athletic Conference Champion Curling Team in 1987. And then next to him is Crystal Phillips, who's the health lead and head of experience at Thin Air Labs. And Crystal, and this is really cool, worked with Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins on leadership development as they prepared for their 2016-2017 season, which sounds amazing. I'm sure you have some great stories from that.
But can she curl?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't play hockey either.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. And we're here today to talk about collaboration and about technology convergence. So I think just to get going, because I don't know if everyone's familiar with the term technology convergent, I'm just going to ask people just to go down the couch and maybe in a few sentences just say, what does that term mean to you? You know, how would you define technology convergence?
I'm passing it. I'm passing it.
You can pass that to me?
Yeah.
I have no, there we go.
Technology convergence to me is, it's an interesting time we're in. If it was just artificial intelligence alone, if that was just the one technology that was coming to market, that's a multi-trillion-dollar global opportunity. But it's compounded by the fact that there are all these other technologies coming at the same time: blockchain, IoT, AR, VR, etc. And so convergence is when these technologies, these emerging technologies, come together and they enhance the value proposition to the end user in a way that one technology by itself couldn't do.
I want to use my technology converged device, a very sophisticated note-taking device, that integrates multiple technologies onto one platform. I mean, so there's a really, really fantastic report on disruptive innovation by ARC Invest. And they talk about 5 disruptive innovation platforms: DNA sequencing, blockchain, artificial intelligence, robotics, and energy storage. And these are all hitting at the same time. And I think what's really interesting about technology convergence is not so much the technology side of it. It's what problems does this allow us to solve? And this is kind of going to be where I spend a lot of my time today. It's really interesting that technology is out there and it's like has massive compounding effects. But what problems are we able to solve with this that the world needs us to solve? And I think that's the most important lens to take to the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add to Terry's point. I think technology convergence means a real acceptance that we don't get to vote on technology. It's coming at a rapid rate. So it's up to us to be able to take that technology and use it in the best way that we can think of. There are so many sectors, there are so many problems in the world that we can start looking at not only one, but all the different technologies and be leaders in using this for good instead of, some of the Black Mirror episodes that showcase, the dark side of how we use technology. We have the opportunity to get ahead of it and start using it for what we want to use it for.
Yeah, and I will say we're a membership-based organization. Obviously, IoT is very much a focal point. Most of our companies are playing in AI, blockchain, so forth. And so obviously, it's a big part of the conversation today, the partnerships we have with so many in the ecosystem, whether it's Canadian blockchain and so forth, because our companies need all of that technology to turn around and start to play on the national and international stage.
Great, thank you guys so much. So I guess with that background, the first question is, and I'm guessing yes is the answer to the first part of this question, but do you think there's a movement towards greater technology convergence? If the answer is no, it's a very short question. But if so, what factors are driving it forward? And do you think this is a global momentum, something unique to Alberta? I don't know if anyone wants to jump on that first, or I can just pick on someone.
I was going to say, I think it is definitely a factor in Alberta, but I think if you look internationally and nationally, we're seeing it right across all stages. We've gone through a rough couple of years, so there's no question that we had just turned around, especially in Alberta here. I think we had to have our companies step up. And I think the technology and working in this petri dish of all of these different technologies, we had no choice but to turn around and embrace it and then go forward. And I'll pass that on because I know you guys can dig deeper into that one.
Yeah, I can go from an early stage investor perspective. I see a lot of movement, but I actually see it driving with early stage ventures and entrepreneurs and really that mindset. I think that's the first step before actually driving technology. I would love to say that we're leaders in the world in tech, but we're actually pretty far behind compared to a lot of countries. And there's an advantage there because we have a bit of a blank slate in certain sectors, and we also get to parachute in and actually piggyback off of some of the great technology advancements in other countries and learn from their mistakes and their best practices and be able to apply that to what we want to apply it to in Alberta.
Well, I have two kind of thoughts on this. The first one is, we purposely named our organization Platform. We now, we have an ecosystem of partners that's over 110. We have over 200 members. And this is a shift that we made. And I think I'm almost 5 years doing this work. And I think if you look at Alberta, the biggest difference we have between now and 5 years ago is the level of collaboration has become our superpower. So we spend a lot of time working with tech hubs across the country. There's a network called Canada's Tech Network that we're part of. And I can say with high level of confidence that Alberta is the most collaborative ecosystem in Canada. We have shared goals. I'm wearing Alberta Catalyzer t-shirt. That is a partnership between Edmonton Unlimited and Platform Calgary, funded by the Scale Cap program at Alberta Innovates, that also works with 8 regional innovation networks across Alberta. No one in the country has that level of collaboration. And so now we're one of our big shared goals in Calgary is to triple the total footprint of the tech sector over the next 10 years. And I think I only get to say 8 years now because I think we set that goal 2 years ago, but I still say 10. And so how do you, what do you do? So let's start with technology itself. It's kind of like gravity. It's happening, it's there, technology is converging. The rate of technology change is something that is out of our control. It is really challenging to build a technology moat in a company right now. So given that, second thing is that just another gravity piece is, look, Alberta is a relatively low density region globally. We do not have the number of people and the amount of capital flowing, or name it, research universities as the dense areas like New York, Boston, Toronto. And so what do we do about that? I think our answer is we can make faster connections. So we can make up for density, which really is just a way of getting to like an answer yes or no faster by really focusing on making connections. And that's, I think, what's happening. So then how do we advantage our startups then? First of all, amazing training and mentorship that many in this room and supported by Alberta Innovates and others do. The second thing is a series of connections that need to be made. So those founders, if the technology is challenging to build a moat around, then those founders need better and faster access to capital, better and faster access to talent, and better and faster access to people who have the problems they're trying to solve in industry. And so I think that ultimately is what, when you say is convergence happening? Convergence is upon us, and how are we responding in creating companies that are going to create value? And so everyone in this room, like our mission is to connect each other together faster so that we can support the people that are building the companies to get somewhere faster.
If I can make a comment on the collaboration piece, I come from Range Road 232, small town Alberta, and when I moved to Calgary, I was like, oh, I'm moving to the big city, and then I realized, oh yeah, there are other really big cities out there, like Toronto makes Calgary look kind of small, and I used to want to believe we were the most collaborative city ever because I experienced great collaboration with my charity, with Thin Air Labs, with just being able to literally point at any high tower and be able to have access to someone from the C-suite who's willing to go for a coffee with you. I say I used to want to believe because I wanted it to be true, but then now we're starting to see people move here and we're starting to work with people from Toronto and Vancouver and other places around Canada, and they always say that this is what stands out about Calgary. So now it's no longer just wanting to believe that about us, but it's really, really factual and true, and it's coming from external validation, not just us kind of pumping our own tires.
And I would just add that it's not just Calgary, it is the province of Alberta. We've got Innovate BC, we've got Innovation Saskatchewan, looking over the fence, they're contacting us, they're reaching out to us, and because they want to know, what are you guys doing there? What's going on in Alberta with the RINs that you mentioned and with these other agencies and funding opportunities we have. We have programs here that simply don't exist in other parts of the country. Convergence is upon us. I mean, it's just happening, and it's happening at a scale that we have no control over, and we have no ability to manage. Yesterday I was having supper with a quantum researcher, and he was talking about the Shor's principle and how it would speed things up dramatically, but it requires about 1,000 qubits, and we're currently around 200. But he said the challenge there is human innovation. Suddenly they figure it out at 200. But the issue is here, the spoils from this war, and it is a war, we are going to fight globally, will not be shared equally. Those that pursue dominance in artificial intelligence will reap the benefits globally for decades to come. Quantum similarly. And so I don't want to go on, there's lots there in terms of questions, but there's lots of opportunity for us, but definitely there's urgency with which we need to be moving.
All I was going to say, and I think I'm just touching on what you guys are saying, is how we're coming together as a province. So when I went to Collision a year ago, we came in silos, and yes, we did a really fun event last year. This year, what I noticed is that we came together much more as a province. So Calgary Economic, Edmonton Global, Edmonton Unlimited, a number of our sponsors and our companies came together. We're actually going Alberta strong into Collision this year to represent the whole province. Probably a number of you have heard about our yacht party that we're doing. We're putting 550 of our best friends on a yacht, but we're coming in with a very strong and clear message. And we've been doing quite a bit of international travel because we have a couple programs that really hit that market. And what we again noticed was a year ago when we came in, we were still going in silos, and now we're coming together as a unified approach to go into those markets and say, there is something happening in Alberta. Yes, you do know about Toronto and Vancouver, but guess what's going on in Alberta? And that's drawing people's attention to us. And I think that's the power of the group of going in and speaking as a unified province.
Can I just add one other thing? Sorry, one of the other, I just think that's really important because I made the statement that, you know, it's hard to build a technology moat, but what it is equally easy to be left behind. And so it is a bit of a Red Queen kind of running just to stay in place kind of a thing. And so having Quantum City at the University of Calgary and all the support that's being built around that does actually keep us in the race. And I think that's really, really important. Having Amy in Edmonton doing what they're doing keeps us in the race. It actually gives us whatever advantage we can eke out, we get it. You know, the challenge is that Amy's research output is amazing, but when you compare the commercialization output of Alberta to other places, we still have work to do. And I think that's one of the drivers that we realized a few years ago is, wow, like the actual hardcore tech that's here is world class. And we now need to unleash it into the market. And the only way to do that is if we build a stronger, a much more tightly connected ecosystem of support. And so everyone's on that page.
That leads perfectly into our next question, which is, what do we need to change? What do you need from the ecosystem to further convergence, to get forward, to win the race, as you were saying, to make sure that Alberta's at the head of that? And I'm so interested to hear, because you all have different perspectives of whether it's investment or through the ecosystem. Maybe Doug, I'll start with you, because you had made the comment about the race.
Yeah, I'd be happy to before they steal my answer. For me, it would be maximizing commercialization out of our post-secondary institutions. We have so much wonderful research and IP that's sitting in these institutions, very, very smart people. These are some of our greatest inventors. But we're not effectively marrying up the connection between entrepreneurs, the business acumen, and the researcher. And making sure that research that we're doing in the province is directed towards industry-identified challenges and goals. So it can't be just research for the sake of research. It has to be something that's going towards a marketable opportunity that is a big global challenge. You know, what's the problem? What happens if we don't solve it? What's the proposed solution, if it exists? And what are the benefits of it?
I was going to say that's almost an easy toss over to myself here. So with Alberta Innovates support, we are launching a new program called the Science Park. This is a virtual software platform. We just moved it over to its own server, so we're really excited that we're going to start having stakeholders on it in the next few weeks testing it. The idea is to bring post-secondary researchers and students, enterprise and SMEs onto the platform. Anyone can post a challenge, and with machine learning, again, more than one technology here, machine learning going out there and going, these are the matches that could solve this problem. We bring everybody together into the virtual sandbox. The person who posts the challenge, the company who posts the challenge gets to do their due diligence, figure out who they want to work with, and then turn around and take it to a physical lab. What this does is gets rid of the boundaries and the challenges of knowing who people are out there, what companies are out there, what solutions are out there. We're now making it easier, and this is going to give us an opportunity to turn around and give our companies a chance to play in bigger pools, but also to turn around and take our technology into a larger market. And we have to recognize that our companies have to play on a national and international stage, and to do that, they have to have the support. So we have partners like Alberta Innovates that support us through this. We're really excited about what it's going to do.
Yeah, I'd love to make a comment to further yours, Doug. We have a gold mine in our universities. We are rich with IP across Canada, especially in Calgary. My background is funding research in neuroscience, and within that just one field of science alone, I saw for the decades of funding this research how much commercializable opportunities there were and how much of it wasn't going anywhere. Research typically dies in the lab. In fact, they say it takes 20 plus years and $2.4 billion to move an idea all the way through research into the hands of an entrepreneur, change policy, whatever it takes to make real impact at scale. That's a model and a system that was reality before Gmail even existed. So now it's time to be bold, integrate technology so that we can speed up that process. It was one of my biggest motivations to move on towards venture capital beyond academic research funding, because I saw how much commercializable opportunity there is. We're now at Thinner Labs, we're a relatively small VC firm, and we were the most active VC firm in Canada last year. A part of me is really proud of that because we're doing a lot of work. Another part of me is kind of sad about it because I'm still picking my favorite children when it comes to finding which investments to choose. Meaning there's so much more out there that needs funding that can be commercializing this IP from the universities. And the other thing about our investment thesis is we only invest in companies that have high human value or human impact, meaning that not only are we picking our favorite children, but these children are special. They're the ones who are going to change the world and create really great human value. So to your point, I think we need more capital. And then to a point I made earlier is I think it's going to be a push from the entrepreneurs and the founders that need that support in the ecosystem.
So we've, as I mentioned, we're now 5 years into a change journey in a 43-year-old or 42-year-old organization that was started in 1981 that has reemerged as Platform Calgary. And the way we got to where we got is by talking to 4 key audiences and asking them what they should work on. Those audiences are people who are starting and leading tech companies, people who are investing in those companies, people who work for those companies, and people who buy from them. So founders, investors, talent, and industry. And whenever we got our founders together or people and said, like, what are your challenges? Inevitably, it was, geez, we need, local investors won't take my call, or I can't find it, can't access it. Or, I know there's investment out there, but it's impenetrable to me, I can't grasp it. They also said, I remember talking to scale-up CEOs and saying, hey, we want to create 1,000 new startups over the next, 5 years and 10 years. And they said, great, who's going to work there? Because, we can't find anybody. What about that as a problem? And actually, when we really drilled down, talent was the 1, 2, and 3 problem. It was finding senior talent and attracting them to their companies, retaining the talent that they had in a highly competitive global market that is now boundaryless, like people can work in same bedroom in Calgary but working for a global company instead of a local company. And the third was the flow of talent out of our universities. Those are the 3 kind of top things on anyone's agenda. And then finally, I remember one fateful moment where we asked the city of Calgary asked us to assemble a panel of tech leaders to speak to senior management of the city. And it was somewhat of a disaster because they just hammered one message, which was, you don't buy local. And then it constantly people, we had a panel of, during the pandemic, we were doing these monthly talks with people called Globalizing Calgary Tech. We had a panel of companies that only sold international. They had no Canadian customers, and they were in Calgary. And in one way, if you talk to really people who are just bound to build a global company, they don't actually care if they have a local customer. But on the other hand, it's demoralizing when you see these towers and people with massive procurement budgets and they can't find a way to expose their problems to the local communities. So, and then the last piece, of course, is really the supply of high potential founders. That we really need to make sure that this career path, this lifestyle, is open to everyone. And find ways to make sure that people who have that potential are given the best chance to succeed from the start. So those are the 4 things that we feel we have to crack. None of them are technology problems. They're actually ecosystem problems. And the final thing I'd say is that like it's not going to happen overnight. Like this is a decades-long problem, and what's really challenging, and someone in the receipt of Alberta Innovates, is that there's an election in a month, and we absolutely have to keep investing at a steady state and being patient, because ecosystems build slowly, and if you go 1% better every day, all of a sudden it's like looks like a hockey stick. So yeah, and rent.
Well, and maybe I'll just dig a little deeper on some of the answers I heard. Like Chris, I think, and Doug, you both said you need more capital. Do you guys have ideas on like what needs to change to make that happen? Is it just perseverance, just keep going, or do you have specific things that you think need to happen to increase capital investment?
Risk appetite.
Yeah.
Starts with mindset.
Yeah, we historically, in Alberta, we've made our money in oil and gas. There's a lot of well-heeled Albertans that invest in oil and gas, and they've done well there, and they sort of stick to their knitting, and that's what they know. Getting them to invest in technology opportunities, and we have a gap in our angels in terms of the number of angel investors out there. We need to educate a lot of these Albertans about the opportunity in the tech sector, how to value these companies, how to look at them and analyze them, and I think that's an opportunity for us, and we're investing in that to make that a reality, as well as some other parties that are in the ecosystem too. So I think that's a big thing. And it's important to remember, capital, it has wings. Capital will go to where the opportunities are. But we've got to get that early stage, that seed capital up, to get these companies up off the ground, to give them the opportunity to grow so that they can eventually reach that scaling stage, so that they have the opportunity to move to a Series A, to move into financing in the rounds like that, where there will be different capital pools that will be available. Immediate challenge for us is activating angels in the province.
Shout out to Startup TNT, Halo Health, and all the investors in Thin Air Labs, because I just rattled it off on one hand, and unfortunately I don't think there's a lot more happening in that area. So I think those three organizations are really leading the way when it comes to educating and helping getting angels investing in our province in these startups.
And watch for 500 Global. They've just launched an angel program. The 51 is launching an angel program, and there's some others out there. So just keep your eyes open. If it's a space you're interested in, there are opportunities coming, in addition to those players.
I was going to say, we did a partnership with Valhalla recently, and it was around that. Now, our companies tend to be a little bit farther along, so they're looking for a different revenue growth or investment growth. But what we noticed when we were in the international markets listening to companies pitch was our pitch level might not have been as high here as we'd like them to be. And that's being very honest here. And so we came back and started to work with folks like Startup TNT, Valhalla, Weave, and those folks, and said, we need to do something differently here. So we are now doing investor readiness workshops so we can educate our companies that are growing and teach them how to pitch, how to be better prepared to go into those conversations. But again, it's that education too of our angels and VCs out there to look at what a tech company is like, because that's a different model than oil and gas.
So it's a different asset class that takes a different way. So the latest study I saw, an optimal angel portfolio has 28 companies in it. If you're trying to make it a serious part of your portfolio, that's a lot of work to manage 28 companies, 28 investments. So we've, at a platform, as I mentioned, we've identified that gap, and there are amazing groups out there. What's really interesting is that it's the same, investors have the same problem that anyone has is, okay, you've sold me, like this is an important part of the future. I'm coming at this from a civic mindedness, and I want to be part of it. It could be they want to actually invest, like they actually are interested in the investment, but some people start from, okay, you got me, now what do I do? And so should they go to the 51, should they go to Valhalla, should they go to Startup TNT? So one of the things that we're trying to do is just be a bit of a guide. So we've now, through the building platform Innovation Center, we ended up with some very generous philanthropists that donated over $5 million to get the building off the ground. And they also then said, well, one of the things we're interested in is, like, we're doing this because we think it's important for the future of Calgary, and I want my grandkids to stay in the city and have job opportunities. But, geez, you know what's interesting is, like, we have a family office, and my kids are telling me that we got to change how we invest, and we need to be part of, not only do we, like, it's good for our portfolio, but it's also good for the city. And so for a family office, that's a really good sort of bullseye, because a lot of times there's philanthropy tied in. And so now we're getting, on a regular basis, we're getting, 70 people from our high net worth families coming to events. And what do they want? They want a few things. The first thing they want to do is they want to be with peers, because there's a process to learn this, and nobody likes to be publicly, uneducated and not sure what step to take. So do they have peers that will take them along? So building that network. Then, okay, well, there's practical things, like how to actually do it. How do you value it? What are the mechanics of making an investment in this space? And then finally, what are the opportunities? And those could be one-off investment opportunities, or they could be LP opportunities. And because Calgary sticks out on the global map from a wealth perspective, like we are a spike on high net worth people per capita. So now what's happening is global funds, VC funds, are coming to Calgary, and what's really interesting about it, we have Voyager Capital, May 16th, is coming to talk about their thesis. And one of their LPs is Brad Zumwalt, an investor from the community, and they're going to have a fireside chat that everybody's invited to come and see, and they'll talk about how they see the world changing and how they're making bets. So that education is going to, and then maybe some people will be LPs, or maybe they'll go, you know what, I want to do it on my own. The win is that we have more local capital, making more bets on more people, which is not the same as making bets on companies. Because at early stage, you're really backing a team, and that's the message we're trying to get out.
Perfect. Well, we're in our final 10 minutes, so maybe I'll just go to our last question, ask everyone just in a couple minutes. Just to sum up, we've touched on it, but what's your vision of the future? You have the 10-year plan, 5-10 years from now, where do you want to see Alberta? And maybe I'll start with you, Crystal.
Sure, I can tell you what I don't want to be, which is the next Silicon Valley. I think a lot of cities try to be the next Silicon Valley. Let's be the next Calgary. I am so proud, and I told you I'm from Range Road 232, so I can't help but love the Western culture that we have. I literally got hired with a handshake. My entire career has been built on trust and relationships and collaboration. So I want to keep that alive, that spirit. And it's interesting because when we were talking about what is technology convergence, the four of us quickly talked about the human capital and the mindset and the collaboration piece in order to actually make that technology work and be usable. And at Thinner Labs, we often use this quote from Jim Goodson, which was, it's not about the innovation of things, it's the innovation of ways that really get something from that ideation stage to impact. So that's how I see us embracing that right now, and I just don't want to lose it. So I hope the future of Alberta is that at a bigger scale.
Yeah, I mean, this is oddly specific. It's about 3,000 tech companies employing about I think the number is something like 38,000 people in Calgary, and that those companies are and that we have at the front end of the funnel. So small startups, that we have de-risked that part of the journey so much that there are 10 times the number of 2-person, 3-person teams giving it a shot. That it's no longer, should I take a high paycheck in energy industry, or should I go ramen and not have the outcome, but that there are so many role models, and there's so much easy to access support, and it's so welcoming, and the capital is there, and you know that there's talent there to grow, that it's like from an opportunity to opportunity perspective, it's a no-brainer to give it a shot and to be part of that. I think that I keep going back to this, density is always going to be a challenge for us. We have to make up for our lack of density with speed and trust.
I love that, Doug.
For me, it's twofold. One would be, on the more specific side, would be to be the top performing tech ecosystem on a per capita basis as measured by jobs, number of companies, and capital raised. That's where I'd like to see us get to. On the human side of it, you know, I'm third generation Albertan. I remember when my dad lost his job in the early 80s. I've seen the boom and bust of this economy over and over and over again. I'd love to see us break that cycle. I'd love to see us come to a place where we recognize that, yes, we're a culture of entrepreneurs, but largely we've become a culture of entrepreneurs by pulling something out of the ground cheaper and better than somebody else, and putting it on a pipe to a customer at the other end with an insatiable appetite. We never had to learn how to market globally. We never had to learn how to fight for market share in a global marketplace. And so it's also just that recognition of we've got a lot of ability, we've got a lot of opportunity, but let's also see where we have the ability to grow and improve. And I think that's a great way for Alberta to succeed.
Perfect. Well, Brenda, I'll let you bring it home with final thoughts here.
Thank you. So Alberta IoT has a program called the Startup Visa Program. This allows us to bring tech companies into Alberta and give them landed immigration status. So we focus on companies with at least 2 years of revenue. What I think is really important is bringing these new tech ideas into Alberta and growing the ecosystem we have here. And we are seeing this momentum of companies coming not only through us, obviously, but through what CED's doing, Edmonton Global, and so forth. I want us to have this growth in the tech sector so our young people coming out of university find a job here, stay here, and see what, and love what we're doing here. And I think that evolution of what we are as a province can happen with what all of us are trying to achieve.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And maybe with that, we'll move to the Q&A section. I think there's people with...
Who's got some questions? Let's get our hands up and then we'll throw our cubes around. Anybody? What have we got? Oh, we got one down in the front here. We got one down. We got a taker. While we wait, I love the precision of that last question, the way you answered it. I've heard that question asked in different ways before in similar environments. You all had very specific metrics. You all had a very deliberate plan. I want a huge kudos to that because I've heard that answered in a very vague, pie-in-the-sky way. That's not how all four of you answered it. That was awesome. So thank you for that.
Hi. In terms of creating synergy for the province, I love the vision. Yes, we absolutely have to get away from the ebbs and flows of the commodity price cycle. But are we worried that we're vilifying our own backyard industry and calling it out and trying to run away from it as opposed to embracing it and demonstrating how we can bring all of these great technologies together with the energy industry, with the farming industry, with the forestry industry? Are we alienating some of our own industry here in the province?
I really like that question, and I think it's partially why I said I wanted to maintain that Western heritage, because it was built on those industries. We're also the most philanthropic province in this country. We have that collaborative mentality, and relationships are easy to build in this province because of all of those industries that I think we should continue to respect and work with, not in addition or not separate from.
Totally agree. And I've got no time for anybody vilifying the oil and gas industry. The whole reason we have the opportunity in Alberta that we do is because of the oil and gas industry. There is no other country that has, or province that has that base that they can continue to rely on while we grow and while we diversify. I would say it's one of our greatest competitive advantages. Agriculture, similarly, enormous opportunity there. We need to figure out how to tie in technology a little bit better to our ag tech industry. And we should be selling that as a global solutions provider. Food security is one of the biggest issues facing the world today, and it's an opportunity for us.
I was going to say, we have a business acceleration program, and one of the things we're noticing is that we're getting a lot of oil and gas companies coming in that are been around for quite a long time, and they're looking at what technology to add to turn around and enable them to play on a bigger stage. So I think none of us here would want to turn around and take away from what we've got here as a foundation. But I do think our companies have to turn around and embrace technology so that they continue to play and be viable out there.
Yeah, I mean, so I think one of the great things about where we are now is you don't, like, first of all, I would say there's no better place in the world to be doing what we're trying to do, because we have all of the fundamentals to be able to build a top-performing tech ecosystem. So, you know, I do not want to do this in other places. Like, this is the place where the potential is so high. The second thing is, like, what's the vision? And so this is where I think maybe there's a difference in this, and where it feels like vilification when it's not. So what problem are we trying to solve? And I think that, you know, Doug stated it well, is that basically, like, sustainable energy, feed the world, you know, move things around efficiently, are the problems we're trying to solve. And our industry, its technology that it's using, is solving that problem one way. And what we found when I look at our sort of our mission as it relates to industry, it kind of comes down to this, is that in a few key areas, energy, ag, feeding people, financial services, maybe creative industries, maybe transportation and logistics, we should be, and I'm talking about Calgary now, we should be one of the cities that you go to if you're looking to build a company, invest in a company, work for a company, or acquire or use technology. That we should aspire to be a place that's on the tour of people who are looking for these world-changing solutions. And I just believe that our industry, frankly, is lagging in that. And that it's a huge opportunity that's missed. This is Mayor Gondek saying that she wanted to declare a climate emergency because that's where the money's going. And to me, that's how you figure this out. It's like, well, what is the big problem that the global investment community is trying to put money into? Let's go there. And that turns out that is sustainable energy.
Good question. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to, burning question they'd like to get on from our expert panel? Oh, got one. A taker.
Hi, I'm a grade 10 student here in Calgary. And when you guys were talking about universities here in Calgary and how you want like talent, in my school personally, when like we talk about going to college with our career counselors, and amongst my friends, a lot of them don't want to go to U of C or U of A. And I personally love U of C and U of A. I've been to both because I run track there. And I think it's close to home and it's a great college, but a lot of them are attracted to schools like U of T or schools down in the States. So how do you guys think that we can make like colleges, universities here in Alberta more attractive to like talent?
Wow, that's a really big question.
Well done, sir. Well done on the question. We're making our panel stronger right again. That's perfect.
I plead the fifth.
I was going to say, I'll just touch on and then I'll pass this on because I think there's a lot to undo there. I think one of our biggest challenges is educating our young people at an earlier age about the opportunities in Calgary and in this province, but also about what's available in the tech sector. I don't think our young people, and I'll even say the general population, doesn't know what's going on in the tech sector. So how can you turn around and guide your child towards a career in tech if you yourself don't know it? So I think we need to empower at a younger age. At the same time, if you were empowered and knew what was going on in Calgary and Alberta, maybe you'd be more inclined to stay here. But I'll let someone else take on that, because that's a big one.
Well, I think there's two sides to that. The first is that, you know, young people have a worldview and a home to get away from, and I would not have one to go to school in my hometown. So I don't think, I'm not too concerned about people here wanting to go to school other places, because I know that Calgary attracts people from all over the world, as does Edmonton. And so then I would say, this is part of kind of what I was going at earlier, is one of the indicators that you're a place that is actually performing at is on the tour of places you go for talent is that your universities are globally known for innovation in that area, or for really making advances in that area. And the superstar professors go to that place. And in Calgary, we do have some people like that. We have one of the top quantum security researchers in the world. We have a prof at U of C who is rebuilding heart muscle using scaffolding from pig intestines, I think is what it is. And like this is like, and he's creating patches for your heart that you know nobody can do. And that's because we, as a province, through the Alberta Heritage Fund for Medical Research and other long-term investments, we have created this capacity. Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute it continues to be ranked in the top 5, top 3 in the world because over a very long period of time, the government of Alberta, through Alberta Innovates and others, continued to invest in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we actually are, like Amy cannot, at U of A, can accept something like 10% of the people that apply, or maybe less. I don't know if you know Doug, exactly what it is, but it's a very low number of people that could come to Alberta, get to come to Alberta because of that. So I think it matters sort of where you are. So then I think the argument could be, you know, this is an age-old one, but should we double down on a few key areas, or should we not pick winners in key areas? And I think the universities are where you actually do need to pick some areas where you're going to stand out. And I know you've got a long history of helping that happen.
What's your name? Arish. Great question. And I commend you for being here and for having the courage to stand up in a room full of adults and ask the question. Trying to give you a straight answer here, as straight as I can. Universities are a business. And if they're not getting the job done in a certain area, in a certain specialization, you should vote with your wallet. You should go where the best program is for you. It's on you to do the research to find out where that is. And so it's what grads are getting hired out of certain programs, what is going to create the best opportunity for you going forward. And I think that there are tremendous opportunities. Terry spoke to some of them. But you've got to understand the competencies and the specializations of the respective institutions and then make your decision from there. So it really does have to be an informed decision on your part, probably more so today than ever before.
I was just going to say, Brenda, I think when we were talking, and I think you made the point that a lot of people want to leave their hometown, but the key is really getting them to come back, right?
It is, it's coming back and realizing the opportunity here.
Perfect, we got time for one more question and we'll let this panel move on. Who's got one more time? Who's going to put up their hand? Who's going to be right here at the front? Thank you, sir.
Hey, hello. Thanks, that was an awesome discussion. I'm just curious, I have kind of my foot in both sides of the fence. I do some angel investing in the family office space and as well on the consulting side. But you guys talked about unlocking capital, and part of doing that is de-risking kind of early stage investment. And I think you guys touched on a couple ways that they could do that. I thought maybe you guys could elaborate a little bit on the support. So I mean, one of the ways to de-risk is obviously placing really strong founding teams in these early stages. The other component of that, from an investor side and consulting side, is holding those founding teams accountable to learning about business fundamentals. And like often, you look at a problem, you say, oh, I can solve that problem, you've done some market assessment, but you don't really consider the roadmap to commercializing it effectively. And so how are each of your organizations helping to support that commercialization roadmap?
I think you just answered it for us.
I was trying to help you as a solve
Yeah,
question.
what you said to your own question.
So specific programming, I guess, in education, like how you use it.
Well, I mean, so Doug's team created the Scale Up Gap program, which is Growth Accelerator program. And so Alberta has a wealth of global and local programs that, you know, from the way I describe it is from idea or even pre-idea, like how do I, like where can I get ideas, through to a scaling company, there's a support ecosystem there. So if you're just starting out, pre-acceleration, that's Alberta Catalyzer. At Platform Calgary, we have an incubator that's 18 months of dedicated coaching support, and then targeted, so if you need to raise money, then we'll get you investment readiness support. It's very targeted. That's all supported by the Regional Innovation Network. And then once those companies are ready to actually have access to global markets or really start to up their investment game, then the accelerators, 500 Global, all those.
CSW, Plug and Play.
Yeah, they're all available here in Alberta. And if you really put the founder lens on, and this is what we always try to do, it really is about seamlessness, that support is there for you when you need it and it's stage appropriate, and it just helps you get over your next milestone. But it does exist in the province at high levels.
Yeah, it does. And so the accelerators are a big piece of building that business acumen, taking companies that have the opportunity, have scale opportunity, teaching them that business acumen and helping them on their way. We also have supports through entrepreneurial investments. It's a team I oversee at Alberta Innovates, wherein we have grants available to help cover off those capital challenges that these startups are facing. You know, whether it's, you know, we need to hire a CFO, we need to hire a business development person, we need money for product development, we need money to test our product with this big client. We have those opportunities for entrepreneurs to take advantage of, and that is unique to the province, and it's something that we should all be trying to make sure that we're maximizing utilization of those things. Beyond that, there's federal support, there's Prairie Scan, there's ISED, there's NRC. These are things that not all of our entrepreneurs are aware of from the capital side that really we can do a better job of working with them on. Our technology development advisors at Alberta Innovates exist for this reason and are happy to work with companies in that regard.
I was going to say, so from Alberta IoT's point of view, we have a fast track program, which is a business acceleration program. So that's after the company has got past ideation and is actually commercialized, has business market share, and is growing. And what we find is those are the companies that the founder is probably an engineer, had a great idea, hired a few people, got it out to market, and now is struggling to take it to the next level. And so we come in for a year and support them to turn around and help them do that next jump. But what's really cool here is what you're hearing is that there's support at every level, because a lot of our companies then go on to plug and play. So we have a whole system here of support from start to finish. And that's the exciting thing about Alberta.
Mic drop moment. Huge round of applause for our panel. Thank you.